Back with you with another edition of the LOCKEDON Hawkeyes Podcast. Trent and Biz here today, and we break down the big matchup, Penn State. Can the Hawkeyes actually pull off the shocker Saturday in State College?
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Trent Condon. That's my buddy Biz, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts, and you can also find us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege or enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle with any purchase. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Biz, back at it, 3-0, undefeated in the non-conference, and definitely some positives from your boy Brian Ferentz. Running game got going a little bit. Cade McNamara, though, struggled at times. How was Kinnick Stadium on Saturday?
Good. Always good to be at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday. Would have been better if the Lightning would have been 1/10 of a mile to the south. Apparently, any lightning strike within 8 miles causes a lightning delay, and it was literally 7.9 miles away. So being in the stadium, there was never, ever any risk whatsoever of there being bad weather. But we got to sit there for 40 minutes and do absolutely nothing. But outside of that, good win all around. You know, obviously the Hawks never make anything 100% easy, so they made it more difficult than need be. But you know, that's the first time in a long time, Trent, that we just physically manhandle the team. I mean, just move them off the ball, 3-4 yard line, put surge over and over again. And I know Western Michigan's not good, but man, it was just nice to see it because it has been a long time since that's happened.
You're exactly right. And that was definitely one of the positive takeaways. Offensive line gets going. The run game gets going. We saw a myriad of different running backs do it. Saw Moulton with a couple of touchdowns, little TJ Washington out there. And of course, Max White at the end, getting into the end zone, a kid from there in the corridor, and a great scene for him to get a touchdown and get into the end zone. But as good as the run blocking was in comparison to what we've seen over the first 2 weeks, the pass blocking was pitiful. After we thought they'd really taken a step forward, it was not what we certainly had seen the first 2 weeks.
Pitiful seems a little aggressive, Trent.
It was awful.
I think of the 4 sacks, 2, maybe even 3 of them were just as much McNamara's fault as the pass blocking.
That's fair.
McNamara just held on to the ball way too long, all day long. I'm not going to say concerning because I still think he's a significant upgrade in quarterback from last year. Is he great? No, but he did not have a good game on Saturday. He held the ball too long, both interceptions. If you're there in the stadium, you saw both interceptions. There were guys open, but he was a half second late on both of them. And, you know, against good teams, a half second late is going to cost you. And even against bad teams like Western Michigan, obviously you saw that cost you. But he's got to play better than that if we have any hope to win this Saturday. So I don't think the pass blocking was as bad as you're claiming it was. It was not as good, but the 4 sacks really, like I said, at least 2 of them were just his inability to either get out of the pocket or get rid of the damn ball. And it's hard because, you know, with the rules, you got to get outside the tackle box. I think a couple times he thought, well, I can't get rid of it because it's going to be grounding because I'm now outside the tackle box. So, but I don't know. It wasn't as good pass blocking, but pitiful. Pitiful seems a little dramatic.
All right. Maybe a little hard, but you're exactly right. I mean, that was certainly McNamara's worst game in a Hawkeye uniform. He was not only, you mentioned the sacks, and you're right, a couple of them were definitely his fault. You know, maybe trying to do a little bit too much. Maybe it's a good sign that his quad's feeling a little bit better. We saw the scramble, and he had a little smirk afterwards as he darted out of bounds and got the first down on that play. But because he's moving around maybe a little bit better, he felt like he could hold it a little bit longer, and maybe that's what led to that. But McNamara certainly wasn't sharp. Brian Ferentz let him know on the sideline after the interception towards the end of the first half. It was some frustrations there in the first half. And another one of the big plays was the blown coverage on the touchdown. I know a lot of people were pointing at Jamari Harris and his first game back after not playing last season and the 2-game suspension this year. But I think more than anything, that was Xavier Wampa. I thought he was just late getting over there.
Yeah. I mean, seeing it live, before the ball was even caught, Jamari Harris had his hands up like, where are you? Like, I think it was, quarters coverage. And I think he thought he had help over the top. And, obviously there was a mistake there somewhere. And I don't know. Same thing later on. There was another pass to the tight end at the middle that I think was clearly Schulte's fault. So it was surprising to see. That first quarter and a half, you can go a month without seeing 4 big plays given up by our defense. And there was 4 in the first 22 minutes. But honestly, I in some ways I view that as a good thing because if our defense was overconfident, they were certainly put in their place at halftime by Phil. I'm guessing Phil had some choice words to say at halftime, and they came out and played great the second half. So I don't know. In some ways, looking back at it, it's probably the perfect time for that to happen because if they were overconfident at all, they're not now. They show. They were just breakdowns on the defensive end, which you just don't see Iowa teams do. And so the second half was back to normal Iowa defense. It was pretty impressive second half defensively wise. So I don't know. I view it more as a blip on the radar than I do an actual concern. So
I'm right there with
question
you.
for you, quick, Trent.
Yeah.
Are you willing to admit that was actually a well-called football game by Brian Ferentz?
Outside of it was his fault that Luke Lachey's ankle snapped, but yeah, of course,
his fault is ridiculous. I agree.
I'm joking. The second and two Jets
in the moment, I was frustrated because we had just ran 4 straight power football just right down your throat, and then on 2nd and 3, we decided to get fancy for no reason.
Jet sweep to the short side leads to a 3rd and 3, and then Lachey and his season is over. But no, you're exactly right. He called a good game overall. It was pretty good, and I liked him too going after McNamara with that interception. You were obviously at the game, and I don't know if you went back and watched it, but he was animated and it was directed right at Cade. Stupid decision and a couple other explicit terms that he was throwing out there too. But it's right. You got a field goal there. You take a 7-point lead into the locker room. If you don't just throw the ball into the end zone, that was a dumb decision. And I was fine with Brian on the sidelines dressing down his quarterback.
Well, the thing I've kind of liked is you look at all 3 games, and we've really kind of had a different kind of game plan to all 3 of them a little bit, which the creativity has been better this year, I like, because the first game there was a lot of screens, a lot of, heavy screen game. The second game, I don't think we threw a single screen at Iowa State, but we did a lot of counter action and a lot of different stuff. And then this week, we added in some jet sweep action. We added in, a couple other different things. We've shown a lot of different looks. And, are all those looks going to be successful throughout the year? Probably not. But at least we haven't just said, okay, we are a zone running team and that's what we are. Or we are a, certain type of passing, that's what we are. We've done a variety of different things. We've thrown the ball down the field. We've decent in the screen game. We've had the jet sweep action. We've done some outside zone, and then we've added in the gap blocking. There's more variety there than in the past. Still not the greatest offensive football in the world, but at least they're showing some willingness to adapt, and that's something that shows me some optimism going forward. I think more than anything, it shows that we've got they probably have a little more confidence in whether it's just McNamara or the offense in general, the confidence to do some different things.
I'm right there with you. And the one thing, and maybe another leaf that they can turn over this week, is we've talked a ton about seeing more counters, more hat-on-hat blocking, moving away from the traditional zone blocking scheme and using more of that. One thing we haven't seen a ton of is them pass plays out of that counter look, where you go play action off the counter look, and you can set up good pass protection off of those kind of things. That's something that I would love to see unleashed. You come out with your scripted plays, you got a counter in there, you got probably a jet sweep in there, your traditional zone plays, but also in that group of plays that you're working on, your first 15, 20 plays of the game, going out there and having some kind of pass look off the counter look and go and play action off of that.
Well, and you saw the one bootleg they let him do. I think that was kind of a test run to see, okay, are you able to do it? Because we're going to have to add that in, I think, a little bit also against Penn State. Are we going to do it a ton? No, but you got to have that at least. There has to be a threat of the bootleg coming out of there and having, kind of that tight end waggle type stuff and everything. And, I think we'll see that a little bit more this week. I mean, I think go from 1 to 2 or 3 bootlegs at least. So yeah. I think another wrinkle at least, hopefully.
And that's what we're looking for. We continue here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. We turn the page over to next week. It is Penn State coming up on Saturday, a place that Biz and I have been a few different times. It is going to be a great environment and should be a great football game. We'll talk about that as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by Birddogs. Now, Biz, I know you're a guy, you sweat a lot, right? You're a big sweater.
Oh, I wouldn't say a lot. Yeah, I sweat more than the average human. Yeah.
Well, I got just the product for you. It's Birddogs. These are great shorts. They sent me a couple of pairs. We need to get you hooked up too. Great for when you're on the golf course, any kind of function that you're looking at, golf, date night, just an evening out. You like good loungewear. You like something comfortable and something that looks good. Slimmer fit. You don't got to worry about that. That's more for a guy like me. But Birddogs does a great job with that. And their anti-stink sweat wicking fabric, that's for you, Biz, keeps you cool and dry in all the right places all day long. And what you want to do is go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, or when you're there, just enter the promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for a free Birddogs water bottle with your order. Again, birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. Trent and Biz back with you once again here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. As always, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Penn State, Biz, we've been there. It's a great environment. We were there for the 2009 game, which was incredible. The environment, the buildup, the rain, everything all day long. And what a fun trip that was. And obviously culminating with the win 21-10 over the Nittany Lions. We also went there a couple years later. Wasn't nearly as fun as I also had your chairs fall out of the RV as we were making our way out. And I had that first drive out and left the doors open on the side. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the first trip was much more memorable than the second trip, but both very enjoyable trips. Anybody that's debating ever going to Happy Valley, A, definitely do it, and B, if you can, do it in an RV, because they have the world's biggest RV lot, and it's pretty impressive to behold. It's probably 1,000 RVs and a massively large grass field right next to the stadium. So, yeah, pretty impressive place, but it's also, more importantly, it's been a pretty successful place for the Hawks, Trent. Can you remember in the Kirk Ferentz era, how many times have we won at Happy Valley?
Well, let's see. You got the first one with Ryan Hansen. You got the 6-4 game. You got the one that we were at. I'm going to say there's probably another. I'm going to say 5.
You are correct. You stumbled your way to 5. So, yeah. Are you ready for a 5-question Nittany Lion road game quiz here?
Yes,
I think you can go 5 for 5 on these, Trent. These are not meant to be terribly difficult. It's really meant to go back down memory lane and enjoy the 5 wins. So
I like that. I'm ready for it.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Win number 1. I know you're going to answer this question right because you already said his name, Trent.
Right.
2000, kind of honestly a program turning win for the Hawks. Up to this point, Kirk Ferentz was, I think, I did not take the time to look, but I think literally like 2-16 or something in his career at this point. And we were taking steps in the right direction, but we hadn't gotten over the hump and beaten a Big Ten team yet. So we go into Happy Valley. We win in overtime. We win on a game-sealing interception. The question was, and you already threw out the name, who got the interception?
It was Ryan Hansen, the pretty boy. He was a model and pretty good football player for the Hawks.
And my law school classmate.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at all the connections.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ryan.
He was a year younger than me in law school. And he has a model. We have very similar qualities. Law student, aspiring model, heck of a football player.
It's really falling apart quickly.
We were both law students. Let's just stick with that. So.
All right. So 1 down. I'm 1 for 1. Up next.
2 years later, probably, Trent, when you go back, I went back and watched the 20-minute YouTube version of this game. Probably the craziest game in the Kirk Ferentz era. I mean, just nuts. We win again in overtime, but do you remember kind of the storyline of that game, or the swings of that game?
Well, we were up huge. We were like 35-10, something like that. There was a 2-point conversion that we ran back as we blocked an extra point. Antoine Allen, I think, had that one. Maybe it was Jovan. It was one of those two, but I think it was Antoine. I ran it back for 2. What else? CJ Jones had a big game, if I remember correctly. That's all I got. But yeah,
Yeah,
a
so
great
you're
one.
pretty accurate. We got up 23-0 and 35-13.
35.
At 35-13 with 12 minutes to go in the game, Jovan Johnson picks off the left-handed Penn State quarterback. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Zach Mills?
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, picks him off. Pretty clearly gets in for a touchdown, but no replay at the time. They call him out at the half-yard line. We, of course, 35-13, we, of course, then fumble the next play. They go down, score, stop us, go down, score, stop us, go down, score. All of a sudden, it's overtime. So it's 35-35. But and we pull off the win in overtime again, 42-35. But my quiz question, Trent, this is a defense and special teams focused quiz. So
okay,
you mentioned it. Key part of this game, we blocked their extra point. They cut it to 26-13. We blocked the extra point, scoop it, pick it up, go for 2 points, and get up 28-13. I'll give you. You get the point if you get one of the two names correct.
Okay.
Who blocked it? Who returned it?
I'm almost positive it was Antoine Allen that returned it. I don't know why that continues to stick. And now I'm going DJ Johnson's jumping into my head. Oh, boy. DJ Johnson, I'm going to go. Who blocked it? Who'd be in the middle there? 2002, Matt Roth.
Somehow you stumbled your way to a correct answer on this. DJ Johnson is correct. I actually thought it was Antoine Allen also until I watched it this morning. DJ Johnson scooped it and scored. Derek Pagel blocked it.
Pagel!
So Pagel blocked it, bounced right into Johnson's hands, went basically pretty much uncontested. So we'll give you the point. You stumbled your way from you stumbled your way around and got DJ Johnson correct. So unbelievable. You're 2 for 2. We'll give it.
And every time Pagel comes up, I have to apologize again for throwing him into the stage at Osage High School in a district final basketball game. Luckily, he wasn't paralyzed, and Mr. Mayor was not real pleased with me after that performance.
They're Pagel, the pride of National Playing Fields.
Mm-hmm. We got throttled in that game.
Two years later, Trent, we win again. The obvious, famous 6-4 game.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows. It's still 20 years later, a laughing stock in some ways, but it's also the perfect Iowa victory in some ways. Simple question for you, Trent. Again, it's a special teams and defense oriented questions.
Yeah.
Who scored all of Iowa's points that game?
Schlicker, the kicker, Kyle Schlicker.
Betcha. Kyle Schlicker. I wasn't sure if you remember who the kicker was. So Schlicker, the kicker, makes all 6 points. So.
If I remember correctly, it was Bradley was the punter that stepped out of the back of the end zone that made it 6-4. We kicked it back to them, just thinking they're not moving the football against our defense, and they didn't. A field goal would have beat us, and we still kicked it back to them. Just incredible.
Well, kind of some, in some ways similar to, a couple of years ago, the night game when, late in the game, we just basically took a knee and punted it back to him at the end, knowing that the backup quarterback wasn't going to score on us either. I mean, just in some ways similar, just knowing that there was no chance they were going to score unless we screwed up. So 3 for 3, Trent, impressive. So 2009, we were there. So you should get this right because obviously you were sober and remember every second of that game. So
heavily intoxicated.
Everybody knows the obvious special teams effort here, which is the block punt by Claiborne and the scoop and score. But the question for me is, Trent, Iowa scored their first points of the game. How and who got this and who caused it?
No. First points.
Remember, defense and special teams we're talking about here.
Right. And because of that, one of my faint memories of the game is Weger. So we got a safety. Yeah. Broderick Binns.
Safety? Broderick Binns. You are correct.
I was thinking Weger. He had the touchdown, I think, late in the game, or maybe it was Robinson, but there was a touchdown run that sealed it. And I think after the 2-point conversion made it 21-10. But Broderick Binns, man, long arms. What a stud. Our
21 points was basically a game of blackjack. We went from 2 to 5 to 11 to 18 to 21. So probably shouldn't hit on 18.
Probably not. No.
Outside of that, wild game. But Broderick Binns, who I have gotten to know Broderick Binns over the last decade. I've played a lot of basketball games with Broderick Binns. There is not a nicer human being on earth than Broderick Binns. So I was happy when I watched it today. I did not remember who it was. I thought it was him, but I was happy to see that I was correct. So he had that play and the pick 6 against Arizona are the two most famous Broderick Binns plays. So shout out to Brod, great basketball player. If he was 3 inches taller, that guy would have been a Division I basketball player as well. So a
little more athleticism than you on the hardwood.
Yeah, but I've apologized to him many times because my job frequently, because we're about the same height, about 6'4", is I guard him and I just push him as hard as I can, and it's like trying to move a tree stump. He's he doesn't move. So I was like, Brad, I apologize. I can't guard you, but I can foul you a lot. So
that's great. All right, we got one more win.
The last one should be an easy one, but we'll see. Last win, you've named 4 for 4. First of all, can you remember the last win?
Well, and that's kind of where my memory starts to get a little bit faint. I'm thinking back.
You got to jump. I'll give you a hint. It's relatively recent.
Okay, so we went out there in 18 and got blown out. It wasn't 2015.
That's not true. 16 we got blown out. 18 was the Nate Stanley interception. We hurried the play and through the interception. Let's not talk about that game.
Wide open.
Think 2 years. 2 years. The world's in disarray. It's COVID.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, in an empty Beaver Stadium. Okay, now, yes. Yeah, I needed the help to get there.
Yeah, the obvious, we put the game away on a pick 6 by
Davion Nixon.
The question for you, Trent, I believe it's the longest pick 6 in history by an Iowa defensive lineman. Within 5 yards, how long was it?
Within 5 yards. All right, going back to the memory bank, thinking of the play. I'm going to say it was 52 yards.
You're up 4 for 5. 70 yards.
70 yards?
Yeah, it was 70 yards.
He was moving,
I thought. Remember, he got to about 50, and he did the kind of the
swim move
over to juke Clifford out. But you forget that game. Both Levis and Clifford played that game. Levis played most of the game, then Clifford came in. I mean, they had some talent on that team. We kicked their butt.
Yeah,
that was back in the days when our offense actually, you forget that COVID year, our offense was clicking. I mean, we were a legitimately good offense the last 4 or 5 games of that year. So if only that could happen again this year. So there's your quiz, Trent. You did pretty good, but there's a reason I pulled those questions out, because they're all defense, they're all special teams. Mm-hmm. Every time we've won in Pleasant Valley, we've needed some special defense and special teams play, which I think it's obviously not a stretch that we're going to need that again on Saturday. So let's. You basically gave this game. You just announced last week we have 0 chance. Have you changed your mind at
all? 0 chance. Yeah, I'm not quite there. It was more than I just thought we'd be further along offensively than we're at this point, and that's where my concern lies. But Drew Aller, he got banged up in the Illinois game. I haven't seen a ton this week about his health. He's going to play. It's nothing that he's out or anything like that. But how banged up is he? One thing though that I have definitely noticed, I saw Scott Docterman had a tweet just announcing the injury to Luke Lachey being out for the year. Penn State fans, they're ready. After all the boo birds that came down at Kinnick Stadium 2 years ago, that fan base has not forgot, and it doesn't matter if it's another guy that snaps his ankle in a Hawkeye uniform on Saturday night. The boo birds are going to be there. That is going to be a crowd that is loud and into it right away, but we've also seen that before, and you can overcome that, and hopefully we'll see that out of this group.
You can criticize the Iowa coaching staff for a variety of different things. The one thing you can't criticize us on is being ready for big road environments. They are great at that. I mean, Iowa State, we've won 6 years in a row. We just talked about, we've won at Penn State multiple times. They show up on the road. They always do. And so I'm not worried at all about the environment. I mean, whatever this coaching staff does to get these teams ready, I'm worried about that they're just a better football team than us. Sure. But I mean, we're going to need some breaks to go our way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you look at last week for Penn State, they won by 17, but then you break into it. Illinois had 5 turnovers. Yeah. Drew Aller threw, 16 for 34? Mm-hmm. And their running game was good, but not phenomenal. They averaged like 4.5 yards a carry against Illinois. So it wasn't like they went in there and just throttled them. No. I mean, we talked about last week, and I'll say the same. I'm still not sold. Any game between Kirk Ferentz and James Franklin, I always feel that we have a chance.
We have an edge.
I don't think James Franklin he's a decent recruiter. He does, he gets stuff, but I don't know. I just don't think he's a good coach. Yeah. And I think anytime you put, Ferentz up against Franklin, I think we got a chance. So not a great chance, but we got one. We got a chance. Yeah. And like you said, got to have breaks, got to have a big special teams play, a big defensive score, something like that. It probably got to be a little goofy too. Need to have something weird that happens, but we haven't pulled a wacky special team. That 2018 game, we did a crazy kick, fake field goal touchdown, something like that. I can see that coming out again. I can see LeVar Woods going back into his bag of tricks this week.
Let's make it happen. We're going to wrap things up here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Our pick for the week, our best bet of the week presented by FanDuel. We'll do that as we continue here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Here's another one for you, Biz. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical, that's right, Jase Medical offers the Jase case. I've heard of a Jase case. A little bit different in your realm than what we're talking about here. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's Jase, Jase, medical.com with promo code LOCKEDON. Trent and Biz back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. All right, Biz, here we go. Time
real quick. I better be getting a kickback from that one.
Well, your name.
I assume they chose to advertise this solely because of me. So I'm honored and privileged. I'm privileged that they thought of me. So thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Jase Medical.
You nailed it. Absolutely.
No idea what you do. I didn't listen to it, but thank you.
Oh, well, great work out of you. All right, let's get into our pick for the week. So last week, what was your pick?
Oh, I nailed it. Clemson. They covered by the second quarter, Trent.
That was.
I like that. The weeks that I do bad, you always conveniently remember, but the ones I dominate, you conveniently forget.
Well, I didn't
Clemson over Florida Atlantic. It was free money.
I normally text you what we have, just so at least we have a record of it. I don't even remember what I picked last week. Do you? I'm wrong.
Give me a minute. I'll think of it. So.
It wasn't good. My college betting, again, was another struggle over the weekend. So I'm sure I missed it. But all right, this week, the T-Box is yours because, well, you got the win, your best bet of the week.
Yeah, my best bet of the week is one of my favorite teams always to bet on. We'll go back to the well again. The Utah Fighting Utes. They play UCLA this week. If you go back and look, the last 3 times UCLA has gone to elevation to play at Utah has just throttled them. And 4.5 points. I think UCLA is a decent team, but Utah's clearly the bullies of the Pac-12. They're the most physical team. UCLA is never a physical team. Playing at home, give me Kyle Wainham to push UCLA, the Bruins, all over the place and win by at least a touchdown. So give me the Fighting Utes. Lock it up.
Probably a good one. I like that one. I like UCLA. I got a ticket in my back pocket at FanDuel right now for them just to qualify for the Pac-12 championship game. UCLA at 8-1. Kind of like having that one. Really good conference and very well could be a case.
Be like the 7th best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah, you get a 3-way tie at 6-3. Tiebreakers go your way. Just maybe. I think a pretty good price on the Bruins. All right. My pick this week, my best bet, I got a ton, and this is a dangerous week because I already marked down like 13 games that I like this week. It's really dangerous. So we just got to pick one. Give me Auburn.
I interrupt you real quick. You won your bet last week. You had App State.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah, the
Mountaineers. So there you go. Never mind. We're both 1-0. Proceed.
Love that. All right, I'm going to take Auburn, getting a little north of a touchdown, 8 points currently right now at FanDuel. Tigers come in kind of under the radar. I think they surprised. They have kind of coasted in their victories in Texas A&M. What a mess that they are. We saw what happened a couple of weeks ago against Miami. I think Auburn can keep this thing snug and maybe even worth just a little taste there on the money line. Give me the Tigers plus the 8 with my best bet of the week. Iowa currently getting 14.5, 15 at some spots. It's 14.5 right now at FanDuel at Penn State. You're grabbing these points, aren't you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you'd be a fool not to. I mean, how many times in the last 15 years has Iowa lost by more than 2 touchdowns on the road? 5? I mean, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, it doesn't happen. So, I don't know. I don't think we'll win the game. I think, but in some ways, I think we're kind of playing with house money this week. We're off to a 3-0 start. As long as we don't go there and just get curb stomped, I think you look at the first quarter of a season, a first third of a season as just go there and be competitive. Make it a 4-quarter game and see what happens, and then look at the rest of the schedule, Trent. I mean, there's no reason this team can't win 6, 7, 8 games down the stretch. I mean, you just go there and don't get curb stomped. And I think you feel pretty good about this team going forward. So give me the plus 14.5. I think we make it a 4-quarter game. I think we lose. I don't know. Well, give me 27-17 Penn State.
27-17 Penn State. That's a cover, and that is right around the over-under, sitting currently at 40.5. I would definitely lean under, and in fact, I think if I was going to win this game, it has to be an under game. So you want to do that same game parlay, you can go that route, take the Hawkeyes and the points and the under, and put those two together. You know, if I was going to win this thing, I think it's going to be 17-13, 20-17, something like that. Do not think that Iowa can get involved in a shootout and walk away a winner.
Oh, yeah, and I think the key thing is, I mean, we cannot afford the defensive lapses we saw last week. I mean, we've got to make Drew Aller beat us with 12, 14, 15 play drives. And if he does, tip of the ball cap. I mean, there's not, same strategy. I remember we played Michigan last year at home, and, it was one of those games where I thought going into it we had a chance to win, and then Michigan pretty much played the perfect game. I mean, Michigan just didn't make any mistakes. They marched down the field every time. And if Penn State does that, they don't make mistakes, they're going to beat us because they're the better team. But if we can keep them from making big plays and we make Drew Aller, have to dink and dunk and stay patient, I think we got a chance. I don't think he can. I think he'll make some mistakes. I think he'll get greedy a couple times. The question is, when he gets greedy, can we make plays? So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think we can go there and make it a 4-quarter game and see what happens.
6:30 kickoff. It's on CBS. You can also catch the hometown broadcast with Dolph and Ed Podolak on Sirius XM. With that one, just search on the Sirius XM app for Hawkeyes, and it'll pop up on Saturday evening. That does it for the show here today. For Biz, I am Trent. Thanks for joining us. And Biz, bring it home. Let's get another victory this week.
Go Hawks, baby.